Let me get on my voice chat here on Discord, and I don't know what to show for visuals for this because all I have is your stuff on YouTube. But let's go make that happen. Let's see. Where is your channel? No, that's not your channel. There it is, Ultrona. No, I think I've got about everything I wanted to do done today. I'd like to go listen to your album because I haven't listened to it since you first put the video up back 3 or 4 months ago. Oh, that's just one song. Where's... I've clicked on the wrong one. Let's see. Grand Concert. There it is. And let me just see if I can set up... Yeah, here we go. Let's transition to that. Just give you a second to get ready. Okay. Well, there's not a super big rush. I'll just sit here and talk to myself because it's not weird. No, sir, not weird at all. We don't have much of an audience today. Oh, I need to change this. Let's see. Grand Concert Listening Party. So if you're the 4th visitor who's watching us, we're about to change gears completely and listen to some music as I chit-chat with the creator of said music. So if that's your jam, great. If that's not your jam, I apologize, but it's happening anyway. We just gotta wait on said creator to get ready. Man, you know, Pudding, I gotta tell you, it's been a second. Gonna put your computer screen into your voice chat in Discord. Okay. Ah, you're on a tablet. I see, I see. Do you have an artist name associated with this? I did like down in the comments, you're like, I lost the timestamps. And then you went and found them all. Because Bryn was like, hey, show me your timestamps. Speaking of Bryn, I haven't seen him today. I hope he's doing okay. Come on, dude. Get on here. Get on the grind. Yeah, don't you ... at me. Puddin'. I assume this is what you wanted to listen to with me. Anyway, maybe it's not. Well, you know what? Maybe I'll have to finagle away to Discord and tablet. Oh, you're having technical difficulties? Okay, well in that case, let me hit back and we'll just play something else off of here. Let's see. Read description, you bleep.
Okay, hi.
Hey, there you are.
Yeah,
Welcome.
I'll be having to. Thank you. I'll be having to. I can't watch the stream as I'm like talking to you, so I won't be hearing the songs. It's bad.
I understand. I mean, when me and Bryn were doing this previously, we had the exact same kind of problem. Uh, I got to talk to my friend that runs a internet radio show and see how he handles having co-hosts and stuff on when he's doing that. But in the meantime, I guess we can get this grand concert thing going here. So before I hit, what did it start me at 3 minutes in? Before I hit play on it, uh, anything you want to say to? Oh, we got an extra viewer. Cool. Anything you want to say to the people out there watching?
Please don't hate. Only constructive criticism is allowed.
All right. Well, you heard it there. Uh, so yeah, what should I like say the artist is for this? I mean, because I think of you as Pudding, and then it's like, yes, Pudding's album just sounds kind of weird.
Well, you can go with Pudding or my real name if you know what it is.
I probably have some idea of what it is because I think I've got like an email or something with it, but it's just whatever you want to be known as. I mean, I'll just go with Pudding if that's what you want.
Yeah, go with Pudding. It's okay for me.
All right. Well, I am gonna hit play, and so the first track is "Hello." My name is, how do you pronounce that? The Laza.
Like Lazarus, Laza.
Laza. Okay. All right. Let me hit play, and we'll go for until we get to Homestead Glades, and then I'll pause it there, and we can chit chat.
Should I mute my mic as well?
If you want to, I'm gonna hit mute on mine just so I don't bug the audience with like my fan making noise.
Well, I'll mute mine as well.
Okay. Well, I'm hitting play now. Okay. Let's see, I'm unmuted. So, Pudding, if you're there, you should unmute your
I'm
mic.
here.
All right. So, my first thought after listening to all that is you need better drum samples, man.
Well, if I could get hold of some better samples, of course. But I have to make do with the application I'm using to make this.
Yep, I understand. I've done a lot of music in the past. I should put my own music up on my YouTube channel at some point. Uh, but yeah, the drum samples uh, sounded like they were from an 80s drum machine. They were kind of hollow. They didn't really pop. Uh, Aside from that, the progression that the synthesizer line was playing was pretty good. It had me hooked. I think the song kind of went on a little bit. It felt like it started dragging after 4 or 5 minutes or so. I know that things kept mutating and cycling through different arrangements or different patterns, I should say, but it did kind of feel like it was dragging there.
Yeah.
And I'm not sure what kind of feeling I was supposed to get from it either, because it felt like, oh, well, hell, like the stuff that's in the sidebar over here, where, it had kind of like this, I'm pretending I'm in the 80s feel, but it wasn't like synthwave type, or whatever you want to call that genre of music. There's like 14 different names for it. I can't keep them all straight. It kind of felt reminiscent to that, but not really. And I don't know how I feel about the piece.
Well, I actually tried to compose this as it was were to be a, more old school way of making synthwave. You see, those artists in the beginning of the 80s like experimenting with different kinds of synths and drums, as well as real life instrument, hence the pan flute. To see, that's what my thought process was, like a more traditional way of making synthwave.
Mm-hmm. Well, then you're not really making synthwave. You're just making
Synth
80s
pop, maybe.
synth pop or something. Yeah.
Yeah.
Which was a good genre. I
But
mean, a lot of great bands came out of doing that. Like a lot of the bands in the new romantic movement, like Depeche Mode and stuff. That's kind of like what they started doing. If you go listen to very early Depeche Mode, it has a
I
sound
know about them.
similar to that. Yeah.
That kind of like reminded, when composing this piece, it kind of reminded me of it, and I thought I was trying to make synthwave, but it actually turned out to become synth pop instead. That's kind of, but I still like didn't mind because it sounded quite. It sounded nice, like it should be. That's the core of a song, really.
Yeah, I think maybe if you took the same progressions and stuff and you made it up tempo, you actually would probably come out with something that would be pretty danceable.
Yeah. Yeah, it's at a pretty slow tempo. I think it's 80 BPM, maybe.
That feels about right. Yeah. Do you have any other thoughts on that particular track, or should I get going on the next one?
Yeah. You can move on.
Okay. Then, let's see, what was the next one called? Homestead Glades. All right. Let's do it. I that was kind of jarring, the transition between those.
Okay, so how was it?
I don't know. I wasn't expecting it to end when it did.
Well, it's, I mean, most of these songs are supposed to be a bit loopable, or some are supposed to be loops, actually.
Yeah,
That's
that ending just kind of came out of nowhere. It took me totally by surprise. It jerked my head. I was like, "Whoa!" I had my mic muted, so you missed where I gasped and went, "Whoa!" But it totally happened. Oh, let me hit a plus right there. I didn't like this. Let me like that. Um, I that sounded a lot like just somebody noodling around on a piano. I
yeah.
I don't know what to say about that. It was kind of like, oh man, I'm gonna go back to like video game music analogies, like I did with Bryn. That sounded like, if it had been in a different sound font instead of what you were using, it would have been like just fine for like, town music and like Final Fantasy VIII or something. Like the
Well, it's
the
sort of intended for that use, really. I was just like, what should I say, experimenting around with different concepts, like in this one. For example, in this one, the progression like slows down, but not the melody. Well, the melody does that in certain parts. So this is more of an experimental track I decided to release. But okay, carry on now.
I'm not sure I have. Whoops! Let me just ram my hand into my microphone. I'm not sure I have, that much to say about that. I mean, it really felt like a fairly standard piece of, this is a place. It's kind of tranquil. Like there are people just going about their lives.
It's
Uh,
really lame and such, you know.
uh, yeah, it felt like town music. I, so if you say that's kind of what you're aiming for, you succeeded. Um, I think a real piano instead of the synthesized, piano-like instrument you were playing with would have sounded better.
But real pianos cost more money.
That's true. Um, but you're in school, right? You, am I right about that?
But
You're still
did
like
you
in
say something?
university or college?
Well, do you know what a gymnasium is?
Very
Do you?
vaguely. I know it's an institute of education, but the definition kind of differs from place to place.
Well, basically, it's like your high school. I think you have your majors now and subjects you like want to develop in. Before
Mm-hmm.
you had like everything like art or everything of the aesthetical value. Now you have now you could decide between if you wanted to pursue what, or you could decide what craft you wanted to pursue. Like I picked science, some picked arts, for example. It's like when the real part of school starts.
Mm-hmm. So, I don't know how your gymnasium is organized, but there should be real instruments somewhere. You could probably get time to borrow, or well, not borrow, but go hang out and record your piece on like an actual piano.
Yeah, I thought about doing that. Maybe I'll do that sometime and ask like the other students there if they want to do that for a project or something.
Yeah,
Write some music with me.
that sounds like a fun time. If you got somebody that can play the drums and they have a drum set there, that's also a great way to make your music pop. Like the first track we listened to, I talked about how the drum samples, they sounded like drum samples. You know, it's like you were playing with a TR-808 or something. Which turns out that's kind of what you were going for, was that, 80s drum sound. But, you know, live drums really do make things pop. I know that from experience with my band. Like when I would arrange something with, drums on my sampler, yeah, it would sound okay. If
Mm,
we got our guy who actually played drums to play the drums, it would sound better.
yeah, like today's like using samples just makes you lack that timbre because they are mostly compressed in one way or another or sliced.
Mm-hmm.
So you lose some aspects of that drum or that punch it has. You like need that real life swing and spatial awareness for it to really succeed
Mm-hmm.
in drums.
And this is going to sound kind of funny because what you're doing is all like synthesized type music, but the little subtle imperfections of a human drummer playing drums, the time just being a little bit off but still being really close to right, somehow sounds more natural. Like it
Yeah,
sounds better. Gives you a better feeling in your gut than
yeah.
perfect drums do.
I thought about that, and it's probably because the brain likes to correct things, and that tiny correction makes it well. It's some way satisfactory for the brain to make. You see,
Mm-hmm.
so it like puts you can focus a little bit more on the music, or it makes the brain focus on the music a little bit more, if you know what I'm saying.
I think I understand.
Yeah.
Cool. Well, let's go ahead and get to heroic standard here. Let me see how long this song's going to be. About 3 minutes, okay? All right, I'm going to hit play. And boom. Oh my goodness, I can't believe how many clicks that took to unmute my microphone. I kept missing the button. Oh man. You know what I was just saying about drum samples? A live drummer would totally shred this. It would be awesome. Because those
It will be hard
cymbal.
though.
Yeah, it would be hard.
It's
Those cymbals sounded so dang hollow, it really killed it for me.
yeah.
But I kind of liked what you had going on there. I think it's missing something to really take it over the top. It sounded like, here we go, video game music analogy. It sounded like something from the Super Nintendo that wasn't like a square RPG. Like it was like, I see where you're going for. It sounded kind of like this is like, yes, this is boss battle music, like, or at least just battle music, but it felt kind of like a boss battle to me. Uh, and it's missing something to finish it, and I don't know what that something is. Maybe it's different drums, or maybe it needed another instrument in the mix. I'm not sure.
Hmm. Yeah, this one is certainly a bit weird. You see, this is where I start to experiment a lot. Not just with how I make my music, but with constant, with mostly with drums, because I'm usually a lot more oriented towards melody. If you see,
Mm-hmm.
and this is sort of the first song I'm trying to make in a self-established genre I'm developing around this sort of drumming, where you have these cymbals and like wooden sounding percussions, as well as some lead instrument like a piano or maybe normal orchestral strings. You see, so
Mm-hmm.
this is just the first try at something like it.
Okay.
Yeah,
Well,
you
as a piece of something experimental, I think it's a good first step into whatever you're planning to do with the as follow up. So we're going to hear more music like this later in the album because I'll be honest, I don't remember much about this album from the time I listened to it before.
Yeah, you will hear more of this music later on in the album, as well as later on in my other albums as well. I think I'm getting the core concepts down of this genre. Actually, it's kind of complicated to compose if you though, so it's giving me hard headaches every day. I'm sitting down, trying to plan out these tracks to get that certain feel I want to have. But yeah, you're right. Actually, if I could spoil a little bit, that song 12 p.m. if you remember.
I don't remember, but I do see it on the track list.
Yeah, that's among one of those songs I try to continue this way of making music in. Any other
Cool.
thoughts?
No, I think we got what was in my head out, so I'm going to go ahead and hit play and we'll get on with Romance Aquatica and we'll come back when that's done. Is that actually the end of it? Yeah, close enough. Okay. That surprised me twice when I was listening to it, which is a very pleasant experience.
Hmm?
So, the first time that that track surprised me was really early on. It was the first time that you had one of those repeated notes, and with the instrument that was playing, I thought, "Oh, that's an audio hiccup. That's weird." And then it happened again, and I got it. Like, "Oh, that was intentional." And then I started looking forward to it as the song went on, especially when you started doing it on the piano. It sounded really good at that point. And that's the next thing that surprised me was when you, I guess we were like 2 minutes into it or something, and you cut over to uh, playing the lead on piano, and it was really stellar. And this is probably the best track we've heard so far on the album. I don't know what
Oh.
feelings it's evoking in me, but it's evoking something. I felt something in there, and I don't know what it was. Maybe a little bit melancholic, but I don't think that's quite the right emotion.
Well, as you can see by the name, I tried to like. Well, okay, maybe I should give a bit of context to this song,
Please.
actually. Yeah. So this one is quite special indeed, because it was actually created from an assignment I had at school. We were trying to make, or our music teacher wanted us to try out making electronical music, and because me having Fruity Loops on my cell phone or tablet here, I actually said I could bring that thing to school and use it, because all of the other kids were using GarageBand, of course.
Mm-hmm.
The worst studio ever. But yeah, that's my opinion on it. It's not that fun to use or like try to make MIDI or composing. But excuse the throat clearing, by the way.
It's all
But
right. I do it all the time, unfortunately for
yeah,
me.
yeah. But so me and me and some friends just decided to experiment one day on a piano with some really basic melodies, and we came up with this like chord-like free, or it like adds up to a chord. So we played all the notes we could find as a, what should I call it? We basically just placed our hand or one of the fingers on a white key and pressed it down, and then just rolled up for the keyboard. Hence, we got this ascending melody
Mm-hmm.
that sounded sorta, what should I call it? Yeah, well, inviting, or maybe. Well, we had actually, and what? Sorry, I'm messing up things of the story here. I forgot to mention something. Yeah, right. We also got this concept we should have tried to do. We were supposed to match these songs we made to like a movie clip, and we were giving a sort of theme we should have gone with, and it was either romantic music or horror music, and of course I got romantic music, something that isn't really made anymore, except for pop. So we tried our best to make a romantic melody, but I said, fuck it, let's just try to make something that could be taken in a romantic way, and like doesn't really make a situation romantic, but could be taken in a romantic way. So and back to that story where we messed around the piano, we came up with this really simple progression where we played out a chord as a melody, and it's always major. So and since I was the only one able to access my tablet, one day at home I had to finish this song because we were supposed to be playing it someday. I think I'm losing myself here. But we were supposed to be playing this song for the assignment, but we didn't like finish it up in time. So I had to like finish it at home. So I made this entire track called Romance Aquatica, and it sounded sort of good, and I chose to settle with it. Sorry, that sentence I'm aware of was kind of messy, but I didn't really. I should probably have planned it out way more before I
English
started.
is a messy language.
No. I mean, this like retelling of the story was messy, not my English.
I know what you mean.
Yeah, but maybe I extended myself a little bit there.
Well, it's a good story. The context is pretty interesting of how you created the song. I really liked it. I don't have any comments other than what I said at the beginning of the song surprised me twice, and that the first time it happened, that really just kind of pulled me in, and then the piano thing hit like a minute or two in. You totally changed what instruments you were using, and I just enjoyed it the whole time.
Yeah, it's a simple mutation of the melody, but also sort of enthralling at the same time.
It definitely was. And I figured out what the emotion it was making me feel. I said melancholy earlier. It's not melancholy. It made me feel longing, like I wanted something.
Yeah, that sort of fits the romantic theme I had to set out with that day.
All right, let's get the land which must be forgotten going here.
Yeah, it must be forgotten.
Is the land that bad, or is the song that bad? Like, why is it called that? Well, no, we'll wait. We'll answer that question when we get back after listening to it. So
yeah, I'm gonna mute my mic, and you're gonna mute yours.
Yep.
Right.
Boom. Okay, that song didn't know how it wanted to end. I wasn't sure it actually was over when the next one was starting. So that started off really discordantly. I see where the name comes from because it totally reflects that feeling like there's something wrong. Is how the music made me feel at the beginning. And then as it went on, it just became very percussion heavy.
Yeah.
I mean, I think for the last half of the song, it was just percussion, wasn't it?
If I remember it right, yeah, it sort of is.
That's a kind of bold choice to make when putting together music because there's not many genres that are just lots of percussion working together. I mean, there's like drum and bass and other forms of electronica that are sometimes like that. But even then, they usually don't rely just on percussion to carry the song. There's usually something else going on too.
Mm. I mean, I, re- I think that's where I sort of falter. You know, this is like me trying to elaborate on that genre I was telling you about, in that from Heroic Standard.
Mm-hmm.
Excuse me. And it is like one of those songs where I'm still trying to find what made that song Heroic Standard the way it is, and I think I sort of found something in it in this one, and it is sort of interesting percussionate soundscape rather than a melodic one. The melody is just there to enhance really the percussion, sort of makes the song. So it's actually one of those really weird percussionate genres, I think it's becoming. If that made sense.
Mm-hmm. I think that makes sense. I kind of liked it. I mean, like I know when I was saying earlier, oh, it's just percussion or whatever. That probably sounded derisive, and I didn't mean it that way because I did enjoy the piece. It started off very unsettling, and then it gave me something different. And uh, I should get a webcam someday so people can see my head nodding because I was totally like nodding along with the tempo of the music. It was fun.
Yeah. Actually, fun fact, the melody in that song is played on a cowbell.
I figured I was like trying to identify the instrument. I'm like, that's not a cowbell, is it? And I was like, I better not say anything, but that's just going to open things up to more cowbell jokes, and I don't want to go there.
But it is a cowbell.
Yep.
It echoes for eternity.
Yeah, somewhere I've got a keyboard. It's got cowbell as an instrument you can play on it. And so I'm very familiar with how that sounds because, maybe in my misspent college time, we might have just jammed on cowbell for a while. Not that I'll admit to it on camera.
Yeah, but I mean, cowbell is one of those really novelty sounds.
Mm-hmm.
It's like iconic at the same time and fun to listen to. So I know where you're coming from there.
Cool deal. Any other thoughts on this song, or should we get to A Fight the Demons Yet to Come?
Let's head on.
All right, I'm going to hit play. Okay. Um, you know, I I guess for that song, the fight with the demons is more metaphorical than literal because that actually was kind of a gentle piece.
In what sense?
It didn't really evoke a sense of violence. There was at least when I listened to it, I didn't feel like, oh, we're really grappling with things. It felt more like, what's the right word?
Psychological,
Yeah, I
maybe?
was gonna say cerebral, but I think psychological is a better word.
Yeah. Actually, this is the song Bren keeps like calling back to every time he talks about my music. If you see, maybe you can see why or
Mm-hmm.
something. I mean, how does this song make you feel?
That piece, it made me feel like I was thinking hard about something, if that makes any sense. And I don't know if that's like what you were going for or not, but that's what I got out of it. Like I'm thinking hard about something. I get like I'm wrestling with an idea or a concept. Uh, I think that's what I meant by when I said cerebral was the word I wanted to use. You said psychological. I think that's a better fit for the feeling, but it was very much wrapped in thought and a little bit of emotion. And the name really, I was thinking, oh, this is going to be like, you know, some heavy metal, like we're going to be like grinding out like a punch fest or something, and
We're gonna
that wasn't it
we're
at
gonna
all.
do we're gonna go all Bren. You mean?
Yeah, yeah, essentially, yeah.
Actually, if I remember right, Bren told me this. He uh, found this song really epic in a sort of a way, and I mean, I guess it could be seen epic with the. If do you agree about being epic in a way or another?
I don't know if epic's the word I would use. I When I said I was like deep in thought or something, like I was having big thoughts, so that's kind of like epic, just not in quite the same sense. But yeah, no, I think I know what Bryn was going for there when he said epic. I can definitely see that word being used to describe it.
Yeah. Actually, I think this is one of the better pieces in this album.
It
Actually,
was a good piece. I still like Romance Aquatica better. Something about that just really hooked into me. But the one we just listened to was really good.
yeah, it's
Now,
it's one of the better.
yep, I like it. So 12 p.m. is what we're about to play, and you said that was another example of the music genre that you're trying to pioneer.
Yeah.
Okay, well, I'll go ahead and hit play, and we'll get started on it. Man, it is a good thing I had my stream output for my microphone muted because my headset totally beeped. It was like, "You're out of energy. I'm going to beep at you," and that would have totally ruined the song.
Yeah, that would have been that beneficial to like the piece, I think.
It just randomly in the middle of, here's all these bells and drums and stuff, just beep beep beep. It would
Yeah,
have fit right in.
of course. But, like just this random alarm going off, like switch from bells to modern analog bells, basically.
Mm-hmm. Uh,
Technological leaps right in the middle of songs. Here we are.
yep, just there. It's there. It's just to see if you're paying attention. Uh,
Yeah.
so I definitely feel the similarities in this song and some of the other things you've done. It's very percussion heavy, uh, kind of down tempo. I guess that's one thing with a lot of things that are percussion heavy, and you can always correct me if I'm wrong. They tend to be like very high tempo, like drum and bass is just like 180 beats per minute a lot of times. Like it's just absolutely ludicrous how fast the music goes. Whereas this was a good bit slower than that. It's instead of like frenetically wanting to sling myself every which way to dance to it. I was just kind of like nodding my head along with it, especially early on when the bells were going. I was like, yeah, this is kind of oddly my jam. I don't know why.
It's like bounces around 140 and upwards in the BPM ways. I actually interesting concept I found with these songs is if you have an odd or decimals in your BPM, it's sort of you sort of get that natural feel to it, like you said before, with how if you have a live drummer, you have that swing, or maybe, but
Mm-hmm.
something like that, you get the same effect.
Interesting. I
Do you see
hadn't
what it's called?
the 12 p.m.
You,
because of all the bells.
yeah,
Yeah, I kind of guessed that part. Unless there's a deeper meaning that I was missing. That seems like kind of a superficial meaning.
it's pretty straightforward.
Cool. I'm not sure I have a whole lot of thoughts. I don't know what to think about um that kind of music that's very percussion heavy. I like it, but I don't know what to think about it. Like if we were listening to uh, something more traditional, like I would have more words to say, to opine about it. Like, oh yeah, that really evokes a feeling of this in me and is reminiscent of these musicians. Kind of like earlier when we were talking about, I forget which track it was, and I was like, yeah, that felt kind of like maybe like some early Depeche Mode stuff in the way that you built your soundscape.
Yeah,
I guess that was the very first track, wasn't it?
yeah. I'm well. I mean, I'm not trying to like uh, follow in somebody else's footsteps. Well, I sort of am, but not in that way that I'm trying to copy their music. But
Mm-hmm.
I'm trying to like think the same sort of way how they are making their when they do their music, and usually that revolves around making themes really feel stereotypical in a way or another. So like really you're like pinpoint on that this is the situation this plays in, and only that it fits right in, and so on and so forth.
Mm-hmm.
So you see, these are mostly original concepts, so maybe that's why you're having a hard time to refer to another artist, or maybe.
Yeah, and also it goes back to like I was talking about when we were doing this with Bryn past couple of weeks. Uh, I'm not like a trained musician. My role in the band was, hey, we need somebody to go do this thing. you do this thing. Or I also did like some production work. I did like the mastering, which was all really bad. I'm terrible at it. And I had my sampler that I noodled around with and did some really great stuff on. But I've never been, like my last music class was like that. At least that I paid attention to was like fourth grade or something. So that was a very long time ago, and they don't really teach you anything useful in that. It's like learn how to follow these notes on a recorder. Oh, that's really boring, especially because we're playing boring pieces. Uh, this stuff is all very interesting, and I think I lack the proper vocabulary to talk about it.
Yeah. I'm also strive for like a theme in my pieces, or like a deep situational theme, if you can call it that, like something that fits an action more than a
Mm-hmm.
concept.
Cool deal. Let's not belabor the point because people will get really bored. So,
And fall asleep.
yeah, that's what I'm afraid of is somebody would be like, oh God, will these guys quit talking and just play the next song? So, let's play the next song. So, End of Part 1 is what it's titled, and it looks like it's the last track on the album.
Yep.
Alright, so I'm going to hit it. Hmm. I don't know how I feel about that song. It felt like I was walking somewhere, or like on a trip. I was going somewhere, and that's really the only impression I'm left with after listening to it.
Oh, really?
Yeah,
Like nothing is said, nothing about the melody or such.
the
No
melody
part
was.
you.
There was some parts where the melody was kind of down, and some parts where the melody was up, and I don't know. I mean, there were some other feelings there while I was listening to it, uh, but there were those very strong, repetitive bum 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 with the piano through most of the song, and it just made me feel like I was walking. Like each of those was a step I was taking, going to wherever I was going.
And about the melody. How do you feel about that?
I don't know. I mean, the melody, a lot of it was kind of. I don't want to put it. I don't want to just say the word down because I've already used the word down to just earlier in this, but the melody was kind of like down. It wasn't like really happy, but there was some times when it totally went in with maybe it wasn't the melody. Well, anyway, parts of the song made me feel kind of like I was on a downer, like aw, and then parts of the song went the other way, and I don't know that I'm left with any overall feeling uh, emotionally one way or another of
Uh,
that.
you're cutting out a little bit.
Oh, am I?
Yeah.
Let me let me try again. Uh, so yeah, I guess emotionally the melody, the all that stuff.
Nope.
It
You're still cutting out.
wow. Well, I don't know that there's anything I can do about
Yeah.
that then. That
Well,
sucks. You just talk
try
about it.
to type it in.
Nah,
Hmm?
you just talk about the song, cause I suck.
I talk about it. Should I talk about this song?
It's your song.
Well, okay. Well, what do I talk about? Okay, so this song. Well, primary focus here was to make a memorable melody. So I experimented a little bit, and uh, I browsed some videos about memorable songs in time, and usually I always found this core concept of having a repeating melody. Hence, why the melody doesn't really change at all. You have this dun 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 dun. If you can hammer it out there. So you have that throughout the entire song, but after a while it becomes really repetitive. So I have this progression, rhythmical progression with a tonal piano note, like
Mm-hmm.
playing the riff at the same time as this melody goes on, and after and because of that I can like slow down the song and speed it up without having uh, changing the melody in itself. So when it became too repetitive, I basically like bumped it up and an octave higher, and what should I say? That's where the melody starts to change. You get these like dun 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 dun, that little jingle in the end of all of that standard melody, and then after having gone up an octave, we like once again go down one,
Mm-hmm.
but then we like layer these octaves on one another, uh, in the like towards the end here, you see, and then we get to this really weird thing where I use, you know what an offbeat triplet is, right?
I know what triplets are. I don't know what an offbeat triplet is.
Basically, it's like you have you're playing something in 3 pray basically, and you have like dun dun dun, nothing so
Mm-hmm.
something like that, and those are supposed to be really hard to like play on a piano as an artist. So I thought this would give the song a sort of bouncy feel to since playing something in a time stamp does that to a song. So that part before we resume to the melody is where I'm talking about now, are you?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, that part is like where the melody really morphs, and I don't know where I'm going with this, but I'm just describing where I thought how I've planned out this song. So that's where the melody morphs the most, and that's like the climax of this song. And then we have their standard like outro and such.
Yep.
Oh, by the way, would you mind like taking a look at in that song called "The One Who Changed"? Maybe because that's like a big leap of time since I made the songs in this album.
Sure.
So maybe for
We can.
comparison.
Oops. We can totally play that next.
Yeah.
Oh, it says to check the description. Tell me what you thought of in the comments. I also desire critique, but I want the good stuff and the bad stuff. Okay. All right. You ready for it? Let's do it.
I'm all ready.
Okay. Looks like the song's done. Oh man, there's some
Oh
really
man.
good stuff in that. The very beginning part, I don't know what instrument you had playing, but the echo on it was kind of unsettling. I really liked it. And you kept bringing that same uh, riff with the same instrument back in uh, a couple of times in the song, and it was great every time I heard it. And I really liked the stuff around, like, in the 250s, all that piano stuff. It was very dynamic, going up and down, and I felt like you were trying to toy with my emotions or something.
Yeah. Well, this song is about emotions, basically. That's hence the title.
It was good, man. I can't really comment on it aside from I really liked it. And the couple of things I mentioned, it was very dynamic. There was some part early on in the song, I forget where it was. It kind of felt. I was over here. I was tapping my finger on my desk. Every note you played was lined up right on the beat, and it started feeling kind of. Uh, what's the right word? Monotonous. But then you broke out of it pretty quickly and went on to do other things. So uh, when you say the song's about emotion, was the song about like a range of emotions? Because if it was, I totally understand what you were going for with that part of it then, because it's kind of like this is like when you're feeling kind of flat and life is just like, yeah, whatever, it's another day. But the song changed so much as it went through. There were callbacks to earlier themes later in the song. Uh, yeah, it was all over the place, and I loved it. It was great.
Hmm. I
I
don't
gotta go
think
see if I left a comment before. Did I leave a comment? Oh, good. I didn't contradict myself. Okay.
that would have been bad.
Well, it would have just been funny. But that's one thing about music is each time you listen to a piece, you can get something different out of it. Because while music is, to an extent, as the listener, a passive experience, like watching television or watching movies, because you're there to receive what the artist is doing. It's interactive from the perspective of your mood, what you're doing, the day, who you are at that moment in time, influences how you receive what the artist is doing. And so one time you might listen to a piece and it's like, I've had a bad day. I'm going to go listen to this and, oh, I don't like it because I'm associating it with the bad day and my negative emotional state. Whereas another time you might listen to the same piece and you've been having a great day, you're feeling wonderful, you're riding high on the hog, and you listen to that piece and you associate that piece with the good feelings you're feeling instead of the bad feelings you might have felt on it at another time. Uh, Music and moods go hand in hand. And I'm going to shut up so you can talk because I've been just talking for like 5 minutes now.
Yeah. I mean, music and moods go right in hand. That's basically my principle when making music as well, as how people associate with it. Because that's how we make great music in the first place. You like convey a mood, or you rather set a mood rather than
Mm-hmm.
just set a mood. You do, and like that's what I strive for every time I make one of my tracks, because that's how I noticed that a song really stands out from another. That you have this theme, and like repeating what I've said before, but I don't think that matters too much. If you want to make a track memorable and um, outstanding, like it stands out in, I mean, both ways, function of that term. But if you wanted to make, if you want to make a great piece, make it as, what should I say, stereotypical as possible. so the brain easier can assign us, well, see a situation from it. That's what
Mm-hmm.
I've done. That's what I'm like striving to do. That's also what the sort of music I like to listen to. The stuff that fits a situation more specifically. Like you've heard when I've used songs from Carpenter brought in some of my videos, haven't you?
I didn't quite catch what you said just now.
Uh, you know that you've heard when I used music from other artists to match the theme, maybe.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, that's like what I'm trying to do with my own things, and that's how I basically create all of my songs.
Gotcha.
By the way, since you did this with Brent's album, you did a couple of things. You like recapped on the entirety of the album and gave like score, I think, maybe. Didn't
Did
you?
I give him a score? Well, I can give you a
No.
score. I mean,
Well,
so the album itself.
well, there,
Let's. Oh, go ahead.
well, there's okay. It's just a bunch of things I want to know before we like end this session of
Yeah, go
album
ahead.
reviewing. First of all, like, what was your favorite song? And you have to pick one, of course. Otherwise, that wouldn't like be answering this question or anything. Like, okay, so what's your favorite song? Any improvement I can make as an artist?
Mm-hmm.
And what more? Your overall thoughts on the music I make and the albums I released,
Gotcha.
as well as would me and Bren be able to make a good soundtrack together?
Okay, so I'll try to tackle all that stuff here. So, if I have to pick one song as my favorite, I think it's still Romance Aquatica. Something about that I just really like, and I can't put it into words why. But I will also say that the last track we listened to, which wasn't part of Grand Concert, is also like really close. Like I like it and Romance Aquatica for different reasons, so it's kind of hard to pick between one of them. But if I had to pick, I would definitely go with Romance Aquatica. It just hooked into me, and it won't let me go. And I'll probably listen to it at some point later tonight to try to pick it apart some more. But that was a really good piece. Uh, just kind of what I think about your music. You do some stuff very well in the way that you approach music. I don't want to put it. I'm going to use a word, and I'm not sure it's the right word to use. It it feels, and I guess it might be the right word to use because you've talked about you're trying to do your own thing on some of these tracks. So you approach it experimentally, and you try to do things that nobody else has done or nobody else is doing, even as you do callbacks to more normal pieces of music. My band, Fractal Rapture, when we started out, we were an experimental slash noise band. Like, I can appreciate music that isn't music as a lot of people would understand it, or music that just does things differently, or is intentionally bad in some regard because you're playing with a concept or whatever. And so I kind of like uh, those very percussion heavy tracks you do. Having said that, you know, and I'm not going to walk back from the statement that I like them, because that is 100% the verifiable truth. But I don't think that that's necessarily the music that is your best music. Uh, and maybe that's just because you're still trying to find your voice. You find your footing with that kind of material. I look forward to seeing where it goes. And another thing, kind of like I said with Bryn, it would probably be better to play with different sound fonts, different samples than the ones you're using now, because they sound very fake in some of them anyway, like those drums especially you use on some of your tracks. They sound very fake in a bad way. And whether that means that you should go set up some drum mics and record a set of actual drums for yourself to use as your samples, or you get a live drummer or what, like I think that's one thing you could definitely do to improve. A lot of the stuff on Grand Concert suffered from that. Um, some of the piano work, something about it also, like it's like I could feel very much that, yeah, this is a synthetic piano. This is not a real instrument being played, and it didn't sound as good as a real piano would have sounded. And some of that's because as good as synthesizers are, and I played with some really nice synthesizers in the past. Uh, I never owned a really nice synthesizer, but I've played with some. Uh, you can get those that come with really good piano sound fonts. Like if you buy a nice Korg or something, and those almost sound like real pianos. The ones you were using, I didn't think sounded like that, or maybe it was because of some of the times you try to let that sound stand on its own. Like this is just the part where we play the piano for 15 seconds, and it's just there, and it's the only thing to listen to. And the little discrepancies in how it sounds versus how a real piano would attack and release the note uh, kind of stands out because of that. There were a couple of times you were playing repeated notes on the piano, and or not just on the piano, but there's several times you know your music. You know where you've done this, where you've played like the same note, like you've struck it 3 times in a row or something. And a couple of times I thought, you know, it would be really interesting if he mixed it up and he just pressed it and sustained it and let that go for the duration. Or like one of those times you did like the 3 notes in a row that were the same, you like sustained it for the duration of 2 of those notes and then came back and hit it with an attack on the third or something. I don't know. There's sometimes you could have mixed things up subtly like that. That would have introduced a little bit of not chaos, but something like that into the song to provide a little bit more distinction. But that's like nitpicking, and I don't have specific examples at my fingertips to point out like, oh, this is exactly the moment when that would have been really cool. I just remember thinking that a couple of times. And you and Bryn doing a soundtrack together. I think that'd be pretty interesting. You guys have some similar ideas at times. I mean, he does a lot of stuff with synthetic guitar work, and you do a lot of stuff with percussion. That seems like a natural fit. Like, you're looking at heavy metal right there, percussion and guitar. Uh, and I think with your unique approach to how you do percussion and some of the crazy ideas that you both have about progressions and melodies and the way to structure your chords and stuff, you could come up with some pretty cool stuff together. And I would definitely be interested in listening to it.
Hmm. Those are some interesting thoughts I've been given. Like, maybe I have a couple of things to say actually from that. For
Please.
example, you said that my samples sounded kind of dry, maybe,
Mm-hmm.
and that's because I'm actually making all this music on my tablet over here. Yep. So I don't really have access to any other samples than what I've been given already, and I'm actually looking for to upgrade it to a studio on my computer, so I could have more access to these more
Mm-hmm.
lucrative samples, like that comes with, for example, Fruit Loop Studio and such.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm fully aware of some of the sounds sounding really bland sometimes. So that's why, for example, I really have to think a lot about how I approach melody and such, so the bad sound quality doesn't storm over the piece, you see.
Mm-hmm.
And uh, and actually, and Bren has actually thought about doing some music together in the future, or at least on some concepts. Well, Truffle Historian said he and some friends were making a game together. This was like going to be, I think it's going to be something like a Rogue Legacy influence or like inspired game, and he wanted us to try to make the music for it. And if they follow through on that the idea, I'd say I'm down for it, and so on and so forth. Do you have anything else to add from what you said now?
I don't think so. I didn't know Truffle Historian and some of his friends were working on a game. I like his levels in Broforce, so if he's the person doing the level design, that ought to be a really good time. I look forward to learning more about that. Um, I guess the only other things to add is this little video like here. We've streamed it. Do you mind if I upload this to YouTube? Like, I don't want to do that without your permission. I don't think I actually asked Bryn, but I know he wouldn't mind
Well,
for his stuff.
I mean, sure, go ahead and upload it. I really need to like hear how cringe I am in action. You see?
I understand.
Yeah.
Cool. I will do that, and unless you have something
And
else you want to talk about, I think it's a good time to wrap this up.
so, I mean, mm, I mean, there probably is something more I want to add to this, but it never like appears in your mind when you're specifically searching for it. So I think I'll ask you sometime, maybe afterwards, after stream. You see.
Sure.
So yeah, you could end. Also, are you ending the stream right now, or are you continuing off with something else?
This will be the end of the stream. I need to get going here in just a couple minutes to take care of some things.
Uh, that's too bad.
Eh, I mean, I would like to play more games, but real life. Thank you so much for joining me for this and for giving me the opportunity to present some interesting music to people out there. We pretty much had one or two people that weren't you and me watching this stream the whole time we were doing this. So a couple people out there have heard what you've done. Hopefully, people check out the video on YouTube. I'll probably try to schedule it to go up on Halloween on the 31st, because that's also no, that's when I'm gonna do Bryn's. I'll do yours maybe this weekend sometime and
Well,
get it out there.
maybe you could do both.
I don't want to give people too much of the same thing in one day because then they might listen to one and not the other, you know?
Oh, yeah, that makes sense.
That's how I try to schedule stuff on my channel anyway. Is usually I try to make sure that there's a variety every day so people don't get bored of one thing.
Well, I mean, try to get it out as soon as possible because I want to hear my stupid voice and sound how bad I am at English and such. Uh,
Okay. Well, it'll
also,
definitely be in
also,
the next week for sure.
yeah. By the way, thanks for having me.
It was a great time, man. Thank you very much. And thank you, all of you out there in TV land or whatever. We'll see you guys next time. You have a great day. Bye bye.
Bye bye.